My wife stole $300, $0 from our joint account, cheated on me with my best friend, and then sued me for our house worth $750 claiming I was abusive. Now she's disappeared with everything. I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. The thing is, my wife, she's always been a bit of a bitch, honestly. She's the kind of woman who can talk her way out of anything, lies with a straight face, and always has some excuse ready for whatever she's caught doing wrong. But I never imagined she'd go this far, not until I found out she was cheating on me with my best friend Jake. It hit me like a freight train, and the worst part, it wasn't just the affair. It was the money, the lies, the betrayal of everything we had built. It all started about 6 months ago. Had been acting weird, secretive texts, late nights working late, always with her phone glued to her hand. I noticed her deleting messages, hiding her phone when I came into the room. Small stuff at first, but enough to make me suspicious. I wasn't the jealous type, but I'd been with her long enough to know when something was off. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I figured maybe she was just stressed or dealing with some personal stuff. But then I stumbled onto the real proof. One night I was in the living room, scrolling through my bank account, just doing my usual check. I noticed a strange transfer 50, 0 to an account I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped. I looked into it further and found out that it had been withdrawing money over the past few months, siphoning off nearly $300, $0 from our joint account. That's a crazy amount of money. I couldn't believe it. I never would have suspected she could do something like that, especially without telling me. And that wasn't all. I started piecing things together. Missed calls, secret meetings, her phone records showing calls to someone named Jay. I knew immediately who that was. Jake. My best friend. The guy I trusted more than anyone. The guy I introduced to because I thought they'd get along. Turns out they'd been sneaking around behind my back for months. I found texts, flirty, explicit, downright disgusting. Was cheating. On me and with Jake, of all people. I remember the moment I saw those messages. I felt my stomach turn inside out. My mind raced with questions. How long has this been going on? How could they do this to me? I felt betrayed, humiliated, like I'd been punched in the gut. The house, my savings, my trust, all gone in an instant. I couldn't believe the woman I'd loved, the woman I married, could do this to me. And Jake, my best friend, I never thought he'd do something like this. It was like the ground had opened beneath my feet. The worst part, had the nerve to deny everything at first. She told me I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that she loved me and would never cheat. She called me insecure, said I was overreacting. But the evidence was right there, plain as day. The texts, the money transfers, her secret meetings. When I confronted her with it all, her face twisted into this bitchy smirk, like she thought she was untouchable. She started throwing out lies, saying I was controlling, that I was abusive because I got angry. She told me I was ruining our marriage over some stupid suspicions. I felt every emotion you could think of: anger, sadness, confusion. I was furious that she could lie so easily, that she could betray me and then try to turn it around on me. But deep down, I knew this was bigger than just a fight. It was the end of something I thought was solid. I'd built a life with her, and now it felt like it was crumbling. I kept asking myself, how did I get here? How did I not see it coming? I thought I knew her, but she had been hiding all this behind my back, while I worked hard every day to give us a better life. I can't lie, those first few days after the discovery were a blur. I felt numb, then angry, then desperate. I wanted to reach out, to yell, to get answers. But mostly, I just wanted to get away from her, from the house, from the lies. I started to realize that the I loved was gone, replaced by someone who was capable of stealing our life savings, cheating, and lying to my face. It was like waking up from a nightmare, only it was my reality. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial, personal, everything I thought I knew about her and about us. I'm still trying to process it all. I keep asking myself if I should fight for the marriage, or if I should just cut my losses and move on. But one thing's clear, nothing will ever be the same. After I found out about her affair and the money, I thought I'd be able to confront calmly, get some honest answers, and maybe salvage what was left of our marriage. But honestly, that didn't happen. When I called her out on the texts and the bank statements, she didn't just deny it. She turned it into a full-blown attack. She started crying, saying I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her, and that I was overreacting because I was insecure. She called me controlling, said I was emotionally abusive because I got angry when she lied. I remember her smirking and saying, "You're just jealous because I'm more successful than you. Jake and I have a connection you'll never understand." That was the moment I knew she was lying through her teeth. She was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. The thing is, her reaction was so calculated. She kept insisting she loved me, that I was the best thing that ever happened to her, yet she was sneaking around with Jake, stealing money and lying about everything. It was like watching someone spin this web of lies so fast I couldn't keep up. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. How could she do this? How could she betray me like that? And Jake, my supposed best friend, was in on it all. I thought they were friends, I thought I knew them. I spent the next few days in a fog. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I kept replaying everything in my head, her sneaky calls, her secret meetings, the money she took, the lies she told. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut every time I remembered her face, her voice, her fake tears. The betrayal was so deep I wondered if I'd ever trust anyone again. I started questioning everything. Was she ever really mine? Was our whole life just a lie? And the money, what the hell was she planning to do with all of it? I didn't just want to confront her, I wanted to understand her motives. Why would she do this? She always seemed so confident, so in control. But now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who was willing to destroy everything we built for her own pleasure and greed. She had stolen from us, cheated on me, and then tried to turn it around to make me look like the bad guy. It was infuriating. Eventually, I decided I needed to get some legal advice. I wasn't just going to let her walk away with our house, our savings, and everything else she'd taken. I contacted a lawyer, and that's when I learned she'd already filed for divorce and was trying to claim the house, worth about $750, $0, as her own, saying I'd been abusive in her court papers. I couldn't believe her audacity. She was lying in court, trying to make me look like some kind of monster, all while she was out screwing my best friend and draining our account. It was like she was trying to erase me entirely. That was the moment I realized I had to fight back, not just for the money but for my dignity. I couldn't let her get away with this. I started gathering evidence, screenshots of her texts, bank statements, witness statements from friends who knew what she was doing. I wanted the truth to come out. I knew she spin it her way, make herself the victim, but I had to stay grounded. I couldn't let her manipulate the situation anymore. As the days went on, I felt more and more like I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. My trust was shattered, my heart broken, and my sense of stability gone. I'd always thought of as the woman I'd spend my life with, building a future. Instead, I was left with nothing but questions and a burning desire to make her pay for what she'd done. I didn't want her to get away with it, not without consequences. I was determined to see this through, even if it meant losing everything myself. The hardest part was knowing that the woman I loved, the woman I married, was now just a stranger, someone capable of lying, stealing, and screwing my best friend behind my back. I kept asking myself how I didn't see it sooner, how I missed all the warning signs. But the truth is, I was. And now, all I could do was brace myself for whatever was coming next. Once I had all the evidence and a plan in mind, I realized I couldn't just sit back and let her walk away with everything. The more I dug into her schemes, the clearer it became how calculated her moves had been. She wasn't just cheating and stealing money out of impulse. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. And Jake, my so-called best friend, was right there with her, complicit in the whole mess. I couldn't believe I'd trusted them both so blindly. So I decided to confront her again, this time with my lawyer present. I wanted her to see I wasn't messing around anymore. I told her I knew about the affair, the theft, and her attempt to take the house. Her face twisted into that same smirk, like she thought she had the upper hand. She kept denying everything, of course, throwing out more lies. She claimed I was paranoid, that I was controlling, that she was just trying to make a better life by sneaking around with Jake. She insisted she loved me and that I was just jealous. That was her usual line: deny, lie, spin. But this time I wasn't buying it. I handed her the evidence: screenshots, bank statements, witness testimonies. Her face went pale for a moment, then she snapped back into her bitchy smirk. She started yelling, calling me a possessive loser, saying I was just trying to ruin her life. She accused me of being abusive because I raised my voice. She even had the nerve to say that she deserved everything because she worked so hard, even though she'd been stealing from us the entire time. That confrontation was the first time I saw her truly lose control. Her eyes flashed with anger, and she started screaming at me that I was a terrible husband, that I was insecure, that I'd never truly loved her. She called me a control freak, said I was emotionally abusive because I got upset when I found out the truth. She spat out that I was just a jealous man who couldn't handle a strong woman like her. Honestly, I was just stunned. I'd never seen her like that, so angry, so manipulative. She was trying to turn the tables, make herself the victim, and make me look like the villain. After she stormed out of the room, I sat there, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was racing. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious all at once. How could she do this? How could she betray me, cheat with Jake, drain our savings, and then try to take our house? And for what? Money? Pride? It didn't make sense. But I knew I had to stay strong and keep pushing forward. In the days that followed, I started to realize the full scope of her betrayal. She had already hired a lawyer, probably to try and claim the house, and was planning to sue me for abuse just to get her way. I found out she'd even been talking to a divorce attorney behind my back, trying to cut me out completely. It was like she was trying to erase me from her life, along with everything we'd built. I reached out to a different lawyer who specialized in financial and divorce cases. That's when I learned about the extent of her plans. She wanted to take everything, including the house, the savings, and even some of my retirement funds. She'd been planning this for months, and I was just now catching up. I felt sick thinking about how much she'd lied, how much she'd stolen, and how she'd used me as a pawn in her game. I also started to get more details about Jake. Turns out, he was more than just a friend. He'd been secretly dating for a while, and they'd been planning to run off together with the money. I found messages where Jake told her she could have everything, as long as she kept her end of the bargain. That was the moment I realized how deep the betrayal went. The two people I trusted most were lying to my face, scheming against me, and trying to destroy what we had. It was a punch to the gut, and I knew I had to act fast before they managed to pull off whatever they were planning. I started preparing myself for the worst. I knew I'd have to fight hard in court, expose everything, and make sure I got what was rightfully mine. I also knew I'd need to cut out any remaining ties to and Jake. I couldn't let them keep controlling my life, not after all they'd done. The emotional toll was enormous. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd been betrayed on every level, but I wasn't going to let them win. I was determined to fight for what was left of my dignity, my money, and my future. Looking back now, I realize that this whole experience has changed me. I don't trust easily anymore, and I'm more cautious about who I let into my life. But I also learned a lot about myself, how I handle betrayal, how I stand up for myself, and what I need to do to move forward. I know I'm not the only one who's gone through something like this, and if there's one thing I can tell anyone reading this, it's that you can't let people like and Jake get away with destroying your life. You have to fight, stand your ground, and never let them see you break. By this point, I was deep into legal battles and gathering every shred of evidence I could find. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became how meticulously and Jake had planned this whole thing. They had been sneaking around for months, probably even longer, draining our joint account little by little, and coordinating with her lawyer to make sure she'd get the house no matter what. I wasn't just angry, I was furious. How could she do this? How could Jake, my best friend, turn into such a backstabbing traitor? I started to realize that I needed to hit back hard, not just with legal action but also emotionally. I couldn't let her manipulate the situation anymore. So I decided to confront her one last time, face to face, knowing full well she'd probably spin some new lies. I invited her to meet at a neutral location, her favorite coffee shop, actually, and I told her I had some things I wanted to say. I wanted her to see that I was serious. That was the moment I saw her bitchy, manipulative side come out again. She showed up looking flawless, makeup perfect, her usual smirk plastered on her face. She tried to act innocent, like she hadn't been caught red-handed, but I didn't buy it. I laid everything out. On the table, the texts, the bank transfers, the plans with Jake. I told her I knew about the affair, the money, and her attempt to take the house. Her reaction? She scoffed, rolled her eyes, and said I was just jealous because I couldn't keep her happy. She claimed she was just exploring, that Jake was just a friend, and that I was paranoid. She kept lying, spinning stories about how she'd only been talking to Jake as a friend, how she'd never actually cheated, and that I was just insecure and controlling. I lost my temper a little. I told her she was a lying, manipulative bitch who had ruined everything. I explained that I had all the evidence and that I wasn't going to let her walk away with a dime of what we built together. I told her I was going to fight for my rights and that she'd regret trying to screw me over. Her face twisted again, this time into this nasty sneer. She said I was just a jealous fool who didn't understand her. She accused me of being abusive and controlling because I got angry when I found out the truth. She claimed I'd been emotionally abusive for years, that I was a terrible husband, and that she had no choice but to leave. She even started crying fake tears, trying to guilt-trip me into backing down. Honestly, I wanted to punch her, but I kept my cool, knowing that I had to be strategic. After she left, I felt a strange mix of relief and disgust. Relief because I'd finally laid everything out, and disgust because I'd seen her true face. A selfish, lying bitch who'd do anything to get what she wanted. I knew the legal fight was just beginning, but I also knew I had to be prepared for her next move. Probably more lies, more manipulations, maybe even trying to turn our friends against me. I started talking to some friends and family, trying to get support and advice. A couple of them knew about's real nature but hadn't seen her in action until now. They told me to stay strong, to document everything, and to never let her gaslight me again. I also hired a private investigator to follow her, just to make sure she wasn't planning to disappear with more money or try to hide assets. I couldn't trust her anymore, not after everything she'd done. And then there was Jake. I reached out to him directly, asking what the hell was going on. His excuse, that he and were just experimenting, that it was all a mistake, and that he didn't mean to hurt me. Yeah, right. I told him I knew about the money, the affair, and his role in all of it. That's when he started backtracking, acting all innocent like I was overreacting, but I had the evidence. I was ready to use it if needed. I wasn't about to let him walk away scot-free either. Now I'm stuck in this mess, trying to piece my life back together. The house is still in dispute, his lawyer is fighting hard to claim it, and I've been told I need to prepare for a long court battle. I feel drained, honestly. Every day feels like a fight, and I keep asking myself why I ever trusted her in the first place. Why I let her manipulate me for so long. But I also know I can't turn back now. I have to see this through to the end, no matter how painful it is. What's crazy is how much I've learned about people, how some women can be so bitchy, so manipulative, and how even your closest friends can turn against you when money and greed are involved. I've lost a lot, all my trust, my peace of mind, my sense of security. But I also gain a strange sense of clarity. I know who she really is now, and I refuse to let her destroy me. I'm not just fighting for my house or my money. I'm fighting to reclaim my dignity piece by piece. The court case dragged on longer than I expected. Every hearing was a new battlefield, and its lawyers were relentless, trying to paint her as the victim and me as some controlling, abusive husband. They threw everything they had at me: accusations of emotional abuse, claims I was violent, that I had a temper. Honestly, it was exhausting hearing all her lies being spun in court. I knew the truth, and I had the evidence to back it up, but trying to get the judge to see through her manipulations was a whole different story. Meanwhile, tactics got more aggressive. She filed for full custody of the house, claiming I was an abusive husband who would never let her have her freedom. She even had her lawyer bring up some fake incidents, things I never did, trying to make me look like some kind of monster. She was good at twisting everything to her advantage, but I kept pushing forward, gathering more evidence to prove her lies. I knew she was just desperate, trying to cling to whatever she could before she lost everything. One day, I discovered she'd been talking to people I knew, our mutual friends and some of her own family members, trying to sway their opinions against me. She painted herself as the victim, saying I was controlling and abusive, and that she had no choice but to leave. I heard from a few friends that she'd been gaslighting them, making me look like a terrible guy. That's when I realized she was trying to isolate me, to turn everyone against me, so I'd be powerless in court. That made me even more determined to fight back and expose her lies. At this point, I was emotionally drained. I'd been fighting for months, and it felt like I was running on fumes. Every day was a hope. One moment, despair the next. I kept asking myself how I let it get so bad, how I trusted her for so long, and how I'd been blind to her true nature. But I also knew I couldn't give up. I had to stay strong, keep pushing, and make sure the truth came out. The turning point came when I finally got the court's attention with the evidence I'd gathered. I presented her bank records, showing she'd been draining our account for months, along with her secret texts with Jake. I also brought witnesses, close friends who saw her sneaking around and knew about her affair. When the judge saw all this, it was clear who was lying and who was telling the truth. The judge ordered a forensic audit of our finances and set a date for a full hearing on the house and custody. That day, I felt a mixture of relief and anxiety. Relief, because I knew I'd done everything I could to prove her guilt. Anxiety, because I knew wouldn't give up easily. She was a master manipulator, and I was sure she'd try to pull some last-minute stunt to turn the tide in her favor. But I was ready. I'd spent months preparing, and I wasn't going to let her get away with destroying me. In the meantime, I started to focus on myself. I went to therapy to deal with the emotional toll, and I started rebuilding my confidence. I realized I'd been so caught up in her lies and betrayal that I'd lost sight of who I was. Now, I was determined to reclaim my life, to get out from under her shadow, and to move forward. I knew I'd have scars from all this, but I also knew I'd come out stronger on the other side. Looking back, I understand now that some people are just manipulative, greedy, and selfish. My wife proved to be all of those things, and Jake, my so-called best friend, proved to be a liar and a traitor. I've learned the hard way that trusting blindly can cost you everything. But I also learned that with enough evidence, determination, and support, you can fight back. I may have lost a lot, but I still have my integrity, and I refuse to let her take that from me. The fight isn't over yet, but I'm ready for whatever comes. Next, the final court hearing was a whirlwind. Lawyer threw everything she had, more lies, more manipulations, trying to sway the judge with emotional appeals and fake tears. She claimed I was an abusive monster, that I'd been controlling and violent, just trying to keep her from living her life. I sat there, listening to her spin her web of lies, feeling a mix of rage and disgust. I knew the truth, and I had the evidence to back it up. Every bank statement, every message, every witness who against her, these were my weapons. When it was my turn, I laid out everything. I explained how she'd stolen $300, $0 from our joint account, how she'd been cheating with Jake, and how she'd been planning to take the house. I presented the forensic audit results, showing the money transfers and her secret communications. I called witnesses, friends who saw her sneaking around and heard her lies firsthand. I told the court how she had tried to manipulate everyone around her, how she'd gaslighted me and turned our life into a nightmare. The judge listened carefully, reviewing all the evidence. After a tense pause, he made his ruling. She was ordered to pay back the stolen money, the house would stay in my name, and she was full custody, at least for now. The judge also emphasized that her accusations of abuse were unfounded, and that her attempts to manipulate the court would be taken into account. It was a hard-fought victory, and I felt a heavy weight lift off my shoulders. This wasn't just about money or property. It was about clearing my name and holding her accountable. Once the court adjourned, I felt exhausted but relieved. I knew this chapter was finally closing, but the scars would remain. Disappeared shortly after the ruling, probably realizing she couldn't win and deciding to lie low for a while. I didn't hear from her again, and honestly, I didn't want to. I started the long process of healing, of rebuilding my life from the ground up. I moved out of the house, found a new place, and began therapy to deal with the emotional fallout. It wasn't easy, but I knew I had to keep going. In the months that followed, I learned a lot about myself. I learned to trust cautiously, to value honesty, and to recognize red flags early. I also learned that some people are just inherently selfish and manipulative, and that you can't fix everyone. The betrayal from and Jake taught me that I need to be more vigilant, more protective of my own happiness and well-being. I realized I'd wasted too much time trying to hold on to someone who didn't deserve it. Looking back, I feel a strange sense of closure. I lost a lot, my marriage, my trust, my sense of security, but I gained clarity. I gained the strength to move on, to rebuild, and to learn from this nightmare. I hope that sharing my story helps others see the signs of betrayal early, to protect themselves before it's too late. No one deserves to be lied to, cheated on, or used. Trust is a fragile thing, and once broken, it can be almost impossible to repair. But the most important thing is to stand your ground, fight for what's right, and never let anyone steal your dignity. I'm still healing, still trying to put the pieces back together. But I know one thing for sure: I will never let anyone do this to me again. I've learned my lesson the hard way, and I'm stronger for it. Life goes on, and I'm finally ready to face the future, battered but unbroken.